My name is Jerry Fetti, and I am the CEO and founder of Smart IT Services. And I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today, Using Copilot for Independent Insurance Agencies. My partner, Bryant Caldell, is going to walk you through how to use a Copilot in your agency to help not only yourself, but your whole team become a lot more productive. So, Bryant, why don't I let you take it over from here?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sherry. Appreciate everybody joining us today. I think we're in for hopefully an exciting and educational session. So without further ado, what we're going to touch on today is first an introduction to Copilot. That's Microsoft's AI system, and I'll get into some more details regarding it. Going to do an overview on the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and then heavy live demonstrations today. Our goal is to give you a lot of real information that you can take right to the agency and start using it today versus a lot of high-level overview and theory. And then we'll definitely have some time for a Q&A. So let's get into it. For starters, when we say Copilot, there's actually a lot of different versions or components or additions of Copilot. One of them is just plain old Microsoft Copilot. That's been around for quite a while now, and it's actually free and built into Windows 11. It started quite a while ago as more of like an assistant to help you use your computer. You could use it to help you change your settings or how do I adjust my brightness, things like that. And now it's basically transformed into a general purpose AI or chatbot that's similar to ChatGPT. So it's just built into Windows. It's like your own integrated chatbot. And with that, it can answer basic questions. It can generate text, create images, and so on. It does use the internet for all of its information, just like ChatGPT would. And generally, the data that's out there is being trained for others to use. Now, Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is going to be more of the focus of our session today, this is a bigger subscription-based Copilot product. It does require you to have a Microsoft 365 subscription, either the business version or an enterprise version. So it's basically an extra add-on subscription that you need in addition to your normal 365 subscription that you already have. It does everything that Copilot does, but also it's heavily integrated into pretty much all of the Microsoft 365 apps, such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and so on. It does have, thankfully, a lot of enterprise-grade security controls. Like all other components of 365, this can extend to the whole organization, be broken down into groups of people, or handed down to individuals. And we'll briefly touch on some of these security controls. That's almost a whole nother session all by itself on its own. And then probably the most powerful part of it, in addition to the integration, is it can access company data also. It's not just publicly trained chat type stuff or searching the web. You can integrate it with your own data to get even more out of the system. There are some other Copilot offerings out there, and I want to explain those so everybody knows what they are. If you go search and say, hey, I want this one instead. There is a Copilot Pro. That's subscription based. It's similar to 365. However, it's only for personal Microsoft accounts. So it's not a thing that you would use at work. As a matter of fact, if you try to sign into Copilot Pro with a work or school account, Microsoft will literally say, sorry, this is not for work or school accounts. So this is maybe something that you would do at home. You would still need a 365 subscription to access Copilot Pro, but that would be a family or a personal subscription. Again, not one you would have through work. Finally, there are some computers out there now that are being branded as Copilot Plus computers or Copilot Plus certified PCs. These are a new breed and brand of computers that have what's called a NPU or a neural processing unit built into them. So where our computers all have processors or what we may know as CPUs, those are the brains, or GPUs, which accelerate graphics for video games, and some of the AI data centers will use GPUs, as we discussed in our last webinar, to do their AI processing. But now computers are coming with a thing called an NPU, which is a specific little bit of extra processor that's really, really good at AI tasks. Right now, there are a limited selection of computers that have these capabilities, though. But what they're for is you can power these new apps to do AI tasks just on the computer itself without having to have access to the internet or be using shared data on the cloud. They've got all the smarts and the processing built into the computer. What that's really good for, and especially more so in the future, is going to be to not have our data online, to keep it all locally, to keep it secured and protected even further. But right now there is a very limited app selection. Things like Microsoft Paint, for example, may be the more common one that can use a Copilot Plus PC. So we're going to focus, like I said, mostly on 365 today. So here's some rough information about the subscription. Once you have your 365 business subscription or enterprise, Copilot itself is an additional $30 subscription paid monthly with a yearly commitment. It's $30 a person per month. Now, one of the nice things that you can do to get started and start testing it out is you could get maybe one or two for the agency and then have somebody use it, play with it, work with it for a few days or a week. And then you could change that subscription to be somebody else's. So it's not locked to one person, although again, you are locked to having it for a 1-year commitment. Just understand that. Here's a list of requirements for Copilot. I'm not going to bore you by reading all of these, but just know that there's lots of different plans that do qualify for Copilot out there. As far as requirements go, it states some of the obvious things, like if you need Copilot for OneDrive or for Teams, you have to have subscriptions that include those bits and pieces. Otherwise, Copilot would basically be restricted to just the bits and pieces that you have. What Microsoft does have is a very strong commitment to privacy with their 365 AI and all their related services. Their promises are listed here. We do believe that they're going to stand by those promises of keeping your data private. Copilot 365 doesn't actually even have controls to make it so your data isn't used in training. It's just not. As far as your organization's data being shared, that's also just a straight up no, it just doesn't work that way. When it comes to being able to share information from your Copilot 365 with others, that's when some of the enterprise data controls kick into play. So you and your IT admins will control what information can be shared with others. For example, if you have some Word documents marked as sensitive, then those documents' data cannot be shared with others, even if the Copilot information that you're providing does have access to those documents. So it's very well done, and it can be handled very granularly. So we're sure thinking our data is safe out there with them. It always changes, so we always do encourage you to keep up on these things, or definitely talk to us or your IT professional about those. Wanted to start today with maybe kind of a fun little experiment, and I'm thinking to myself, gee, what's a good way to start this? And well, of course, why not see what Copilot thinks about itself? So I simply said, hey, Copilot, make me a webinar to teach people about Copilot. So let's see what they came up with. Did condense this, by the way. They were very thorough, and I definitely don't have time for all of this. So here's our title slide. Again, all I did is I gave it that one quick sentence. So it definitely expanded upon my quick little command. It generated the slides for us automatically. It generated the graphics and the text, as well as the animations. I literally didn't do any of this. All I did, again, is I took the PowerPoint that they gave, I copied it into mine, and then I just started deleting a bunch of extra slides. I think all in all, they came up with about 18 slides in this presentation. They definitely think that they're going to change the world, as you can see based on some of the slides here, increased efficiency and productivity and so on and so on. All the AI stuff that you usually hear about, right? So they definitely hit on all of the most commonly talked about points. Some very nice, vibrant graphics. Of course, going through any of that, you have the opportunity to customize yourself, right? You can change the wording, you can change the graphics. All in all, it came up with a really, really good, solid start of a foundation. So really great tool. But I want to really, again, focus today on just going through and showing you how you can use this tool right at work right now. We're going to go demo heavy like I promised today. We're going to start by talking about Copilot itself. As promised, as mentioned, Copilot by itself, this is not the 365, just plain old Copilot. This is your version that comes built into Windows 11. So if you're familiar with ChatGPT from our first webinar in their series, this interface probably looks pretty similar. Note, I am signed in. If you look at my account here, I'm signed in with my Gmail. Okay, that is my personal account. Again, you can't use Copilot with a work or school account. This is a personal thing. So you do have to sign in. Once I've done that, though, we can start asking it questions. What are the benefits of using Copilots? And we're going to get our typical stuff that we would expect from our chatbots. You can see that I can type into here as I did. It'll come up with a list of follow-up questions. For example, I can say, can you clarify on the 24/7 curiosity part, please? And I know I'm making some typos. I'm actually letting those go just to show you that Copilot is smart enough to figure out what you're trying to say in most cases, even if you're not a very good typer. Something that we're really going to benefit from with these AI chatbots more that Jerry highlighted for us before is just having a conversation. Just free speak, ask questions back. Hey, what do you mean by this? Can you say this in a different way? And so on. In addition to typing, I can hit this little microphone button over here, and that'll turn on the text-to-speech. So you can text or talk your prompts to Copilot instead. When it comes to your security and privacy controls with Copilot itself, you can go into your settings to show those. So I'm going to go over here into my account and click on settings, and I'll show you here what options that you do have. For starters, privacy, that's going to take us to our main set of privacy controls. And that I have it all turned off. What we don't want is we don't want our data being shared out there. And there's a few different ways that can work. One is diagnostic data. That's going to be more about questions you asked. Hey, you tell Copilot something wasn't right. We're going to turn all that off. In addition to, we don't want it modeling with our data, with our text or our voice. And it's important to know that it does both. And it looks at them separately, text or voice. Personalization, I do leave that on. What that is for is that's going to read things like your internet history, your cookies on previous chat or internet activity, things like that. Some people will choose to turn those off, and that's recommended if you're not sure about what all that entails. Also, you do have options to export or delete your history here. When you click that, that's going to open up a separate website that takes you into a Microsoft web page where you can do that. You still have to sign in with your Microsoft account that your Copilot was to do that. But it will then take you out there where you can say, hey, please delete my history from the Microsoft system on what I've been doing. Okay, so that's the basics of Copilot. We're not going to dig into that too much farther here because we really did a lot with that last time with ChatGPT. So I want to now focus on Copilot 365. So here's the system. Again, I've got the apps installed, but you can just simply go to office.com and sign in, and that will automatically now start with Copilot. Before, it used to take you to Microsoft start page where it would show maybe links to your apps or recent emails. But now Microsoft has totally changed that around, and basically it's this. You're starting with Copilot now if you want to interact with Microsoft Office. So here's our chatbot. Again, we've got the same kind of things that we have before, but also you see now it's showing me some documents that we've recently worked on, as it would on our File Explorer, for example, or if you were to sign on the web. We've got a lot more options here on the left-hand side as well. But right now we're in search. If we go to chat, now we're basically in our chatbot again. So let's see what this has to say this time. So tell me about what the benefits of using Copilot are. And it's going to do our quick search, probably show some similar data, but again, it's not always going to be the same. For starters here, you'll see that it's going to say, hey, by the way, you can interact with some internal information from Smart Services. It knows who we are. It knows our company. It also knows that we have enterprise grade security because we're using the actual paid product. So definitely highlight some of those extras that you get with Copilot 365 here. So lots of good information. One thing it does here note too is that when it's using web resources, it's going to cite those sources and give us links to them, which we appreciate. But also note that it went beyond that. It did more than just answer our question. It's also now showing us some files and information in the company that also are relevant to our search. So for example, we have an email about our Copilot overview. It actually brought up our Copilot PowerPoint webinar, which I love. So that tells me that we got those, our data is out there and relevant, and it came up with a good search from our data too. Now, you'll see here I do have a toggle on top, work or web, right? Now, when you're doing work, it's going to basically source both places, the internet and all the training data out there, but also trying to look through our work files. If you just want to stick with web content, we'll click web here, and let's do the same search again. Tell me about the benefits of using Copilot. And this time when we did the search, it doesn't mention Smart IT Services. It doesn't show those links to our documents. So if you're just looking for the chat part, you can toggle it to web, but I definitely find that because we have this nice, powerful work integrated solution, actually leaving it on the work where it's going to, again, search work and web, you're going to get a lot more out of it with a lot less searching and effort, I think. Again, it's got a lot of suggestions down below. It mentions automating tasks. So let's tell me, hey, what tasks can we automate? And see what it's got to say. Okay, great. Some things that you can do with this information if you want it. Of course, you can copy and paste just with the buttons down here. You can take this and copy. It's automatically in your clipboard, and then you can paste this into an email. You can share this by having it send to somebody via Teams or emails or the other work integrated programs. You're giving it some feedback on how did it do. This does have to do with training. However, your privacy controls are going to trump this. So it's basically going to tell your internal systems or searches or the web if you're sharing your data, if it did good or not. And lastly, you do have the option for the speech input, but also the speech output. I really like doing the speech output on my cell phone. I'm not going to show the cell phone app today, but the app on there, I find it just more natural for speaking to it and getting it to speak back. When I'm sitting here at my desk, I might not be doing that because I've got people around me or nearby. But if I've got my headset on, then I would probably prefer to use that option, right? So very powerful chatbot. We love what we've gotten out of here so far, but there's a lot more to 365 as mentioned. Let's shift gears. I'm going to go into the settings and privacy just like we did with Copilot. So let's look here and let's go into our settings. So now what you're going to see is under privacy, well, there's almost nothing, right? As I mentioned, all your data is already kept locked down and secure, if you will. And when I click on the view privacy stuff, just as Copilot by itself does, it takes us over to the web and onto our settings and privacy for the organization. Now, I can come in here and, excuse me, do things like look at the organization's terms of use, Microsoft's policy statements. I can look through a Copilot activity history and choose to delete it if I want to. But again, keep in mind, this is not the personal Copilot or the ChatGPT type tools anymore. Now, this is an enterprise IT controlled solution. So again, a lot of those settings for how does my organization share their data, that is actually separate from this in admin access only. So that would be managers who have admin access, or maybe your IT provider who has admin access. By default, again, everything is locked down where any kind of documents that have mark sensitivity, those cannot be shared at all. And as a reminder, none of your data ever is shared with Microsoft. So very different settings and privacy. What you can basically come in here and do is look at the terms of service and choose to delete your history if you want. All right. So let's highlight more of the program here. We've talked about using it for chat and then how we can manage privacy, but you see there's a lot more on the left. Again, we started in search. So this is just like your search on your computer itself. If you click on your Windows button and click search for Copilot, and I don't even have to hit the search, you see it's going to automatically come up with different content just as my normal computer file search would do. So it's going to look for my files, it's going to look for my apps, okay? Again, think about this like a whole network and computer integrated platform now, not just a chatbot. I can scroll through and look for more recommended if I want. I can scroll down here and look at recent files I've worked on. This should look very familiar to things like you're used to seeing in just your normal work stuff, right? Next, we have agents. So agents are basically like your GPTs from the OpenAI system. These are your chatbots, the things that you can tune and customize to do certain things. I'll dive on those in a minute. Notebooks. So a notebook is basically, think of it like a workspace. So what you can do is you can make a notebook maybe for a certain department, or maybe you're going to work on a certain project for a new account you're working on, for example. We could make the Acme Insurance notebook and then drag in all our files and data having to do with Acme Insurance. We can invite others to this too. So it's kind of like a AI collaboration space about a place or a thing. So a notebook is maybe just like a way to organize yourself when it comes to topical content, more than a bot that's got a specific purpose. So notebooks are kind of an organizational tool. We've got options to do all kind of creating things here. From ChatGPT 360, I'm sorry, from 365 Copilot, we can create images of different types. There's really not a lot of difference between an image and a poster and a banner. Those are just different formats by default, and it's going to be smart enough to give you things that are more banner-like, if you will, versus a certain size image. You can also create videos, again, with full video and audio. You can do this from a number of templates and prompts that they already have defined for you, or again, just describe what you're creating. You can even make forms, which is a great tool that you can use to create your own Microsoft Forms items. Those can then be taken and put into other Microsoft systems. Let's go into our image creator for starters, and let's have a little fun. I've already got a prompt here, and we're going to have it create a cartoon image of a smiling pumpkin running through a pumpkin patch forest, and let's see how that looks. Note, we can select a style if we would like. We've got lots of different styles to choose from here. If we'd like, we can always just explain what the style would be too in the style of something. Okay. You can also set color themes If you want, you can choose what's called a brand kit. By bringing in other documents, it can take the color themes out of those. You have your company logo or things like that. And then you can size it. If you want it square, portrait, and so on, you can see different sizes. Let's leave it as it is, and we'll hit create here. Now, kind of like your cooking shows, by the magic of TV here, I'm going to bring up what's already going to be some pre-created images. So while we're waiting for our pumpkin guy to generate, this is what it gave me before. So cool little cartoony looking pumpkin running through a pumpkin patch. I love the style. If you don't like the output though, you'll note here on the right-hand side, you've got transformation options, as they call it. So what we can do with those transformation options is change some of those things that we chose not to before. So if we flip back to Copilot here, you can see it's still working on it. But we're going to get those transformation options to appear in just a second on the right-hand side, and I'll show you how those work and how those interact. Other items of note too, we've got the option to edit if we want. We can do text overlays, do all kind of markups, set layers if you're a photo person. But let's say we want to change the style here, and let's say, let's go surreal on this guy instead, and let's make it a landscape picture. So if we'll hit update on this guy, and again, by the magic of television here, we're going to flip over and we'll show what our pumpkin looked like in surreal.
From your office. I'm assuming it's about my countertops. Correct. Yep.
Oh, sorry about that. So I got somebody else talking there. All right. So here's our surreal pumpkin. So you'll see it also changed the formatting to landscape. So neat way to do it. Again, if we flip back to Copilot 365, you'll see that it's still generating. Sometimes these take time. That's why I wanted to show you what the demo looked like ahead of time. You know, in all the testing we've done and all the using this for ages now, it can vary. Sometimes it's a few seconds, sometimes it's a few minutes. And a lot of that also does have to do with just how busy Microsoft's cloud is, quite frankly. They've got this all running off of servers. So we're going to go ahead and escape out of this too for in the interest of time, but you got the idea. If I can just click back and now I'm back there. All right. So that's creating. Again, we've got options in here too. I'm going to show you for more. You can do lots of other creation in here. Documents, PowerPoint presentations, Excel, you can do them right from here. You don't even have to flip to those other programs to get started on making those documents. I am going to start the documents in those programs though for our demonstrations today. When it comes to creating a video, we can use the same type of prompts, create a video of a pumpkin running through a pumpkin patch in cartoon style running through a pumpkin patch. And again, we're not going to sit here and wait for it to create the video, but just so you can see here how it works, it'll go through a few different options. And again, depending on how much context you give it, you can even tell it how long you roughly want it to be, what kind of audio. The more things you've added, the longer it's going to take to create. If you decide you didn't like something midway through, you can just toggle right back. All right, so I'm going to flip out of the creator and let's dive into, oh, there we go. Nice and quick today. So we'll hit guys. So didn't quite get the cartoon style we wanted, but you can see a good little starting point. Not too bad for a few seconds. All right, but now we're going to get into agents. So I glossed over that at the beginning, but let's look at agents. So what agents are here is these are like your chatbots. It's your AI virtual assistants that are tuned for a reason, for a purpose. When we're doing chatting, that's simply that. It's a free form. We're talking about anything. There's no predefined topics. There's maybe no specific deep knowledge on certain things. It's just general stuff. And agents are where we can get specific and make custom things for custom purposes. There are a couple predefined, and those are the ones that you started with up here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on all agents so you can see what's all there, in addition to what other tools are out there to create agents. So right now I've got agents for analyst and researcher. Those are things that are going to be maybe more tuned to looking at files or doing longer, what's called deep research. A visual creator, we'll walk through that in a little bit using Microsoft Studio tool. That's actually a creator for creating agents. Prompt Coach is great for those who are just getting started with the system. I highly recommend you go in and check out the Prompt Coach. It's basically an AI agent whose job is to teach you how to use AI better. So let's just say, help me generate a good prompt. Kind of funny saying, making a prompt saying, help me how to make a prompt, but it gives you lots of great tips and tricks. So we highly recommend things like going into the Prompt Coach as a training class for staff if you want to get them just starting to use AI. It's a great way to go about it and do it and getting them comfortable with things. So that's what Prompt Coach can do. I made here our own agent, and I call this our interview questions coach. So what this agent is for is just that. It's going to help me come up with information that I'm going to use for doing interviews. So it'll tell me, for example, what are some good behavioral questions to come up with. You can even just say, hey, give me a list of 20 questions that I should be asking a new salesperson. What are things that you would ask a salesperson versus a customer service representative, and so on. So agents are going to be your purpose-built thing, right? Let's create an agent and let's walk through how we can make one of these things. It's very quick and easy. You can get deep into it too, so we'll get very deep into it near the end of our time here. Let's just say we are looking to start a new marketing initiative here at our insurance agency. Please help us come up with ideas and tips on ways to generate more leads and cross-sell better. So we're just telling it, hey, this is the kind of thing we want to do. Depending on what kind of input we give it, it's going to maybe come back and ask some clarifying questions. Also note that there are lots of templates here. So we can hit view templates if we would like. I'm going to change direction and hit view templates. So we can see here, we can have ones about tutoring, work on Scrum things, helping with writing. So let's say, for example, as I mentioned, it wants some specific tasks. So we can give it our task list there. So a good ad will be able to identify new lines of business opportunities for customers, and the list goes on and on, right? So let's say that I got out of there what I wanted, and we're going to pretend that I wanted the writing coach. So here's our writing coach. It gives us kind of like a sample of how it's going to work. Very quick and simple, but you'll also notice you've got a configure tab up here. So the configure tab is where you can get down to more nitty gritty. So this is where we would say our writing coach, or again, our interview questionnaire, or our insurance sales coach. We can come in here and start making it smarter. So coach me on these more things, maybe give more questions at the start. And then knowledge, this is where we can do things like upload files. A great example of this would be maybe making an employee HR assistant, and we can upload things like our company manual, our benefits package information, things like how to set up your direct deposit, our time off guides, things like that. So we can upload files here, and you can even point it to websites. If you're looking at things that can do like computer coding, you can turn that on. Do we want this to generate images or not? And then also, there's probably a lot of things we want for pre-canned prompts. So if we're doing an HR assistant, for example, some of those canned prompts might be, for example, let's say, what are our time off notification policy rules? Okay, so then it would tell you what those are, give you some more detailed information on that. So that's how you can make your own agent. So lots we can do with agents. Hopefully I've given you some good examples. We're going to give you one more here at the end where we get kind of a little more complicated. So let's flip over to what we're going to call the Copilot Studio. All right, so now we've got up here Copilot Studio. We'll give you a link to this at the end of our presentation. This is where we can get even more fancy with our agents. So this is designed to be a visual editor for more complicated agents, if we're going to do more than just maybe some simple text prompts. So I'm going to actually walk you through what a Copilot Studio agent created would look like. We're going to create an agent, and okay, we're going to create a new agent, and we're going to say, this agent will be an expense agent chatbot for our employees to understand rules for expense tracking and submissions. So it'll take a second and generate some rough information for us. So it says, thank you, I understand, blah, blah, blah. And then we're just going to hit create. Not going to get into a lot more customization here on the front. So I'll tell you how you can really dive into things. All right, so now it says, I am ready. I assist employees in understanding rules for expense tracking and submissions. Here's some general information that's going to do. And on the right-hand side, this is what our agent's going to look like. So let's say, what is our policy for hotel stay expenses? And who do I notify with questions? So I really haven't given it any kind of information yet. I'm really curious to see what it's going to come up with. You can see it's trying to search through knowledge sources, and it says in the background what we're doing. So it gives us some generic stuff, right? The company will cover reasonable expenses, yada, yada, because it doesn't really know how to answer yet. That's what the tool tabs across the top are for. Well, if we go into topics, for example, topics is where we can add specific Q&A type stuff. So for example, let's add a blank topic, and let's say that our trigger will be, let's hotel or to who do I notify for expense related issues or questions? And then we can hit our little plus visual guy here, and then we can do things like add tools, ask more questions. We can send a message, and the message would be email hr@smartservices.com. Okay. So that's how we create our triggers to specific questions. You can obviously see there's lots more options here. This is when you're going to get really fancy. I'll show you what the output would look like if we spend a good amount of time in here. But I want to show you one more thing. How do we add a knowledge source? Oh, we'll save our topic there. And we'll call this a topic expense questions. So we're going to go into our knowledge source now. And under our knowledge source, we're going to add a knowledge source. I'll show you what you can do here. I've already got a file ready because you can upload your own files connected to different places. So I'm going to just drag my file in here that I've already got ready. Where is my knowledge source? There it is, my expense policies. I think I missed, we'll try again. Okay, so now I can add my expense policies. Now what it's going to do is it's going to take the contents of my expense policy file, and it's making that part of what it can search on now. And we'll go ahead and cancel since it didn't like it. And I'll show you what it looks like once we get an output from that. So here's what it can look like once we answer those questions, and then we actually hit publish. It's going to start with hello. But then you'll see that there's our topical question. Who should I contact with expense-related questions? And then what are some expense-related limits? So it'll be smart enough now to read from my guide and be in a nice, presentable manner. So I might take this link, for example, and put this on my company intranet. So I've got maybe an HR section on my intranet, and then there's a link that says, click here to go to the expense claims chatbot if you have any expense-related questions. So that's what you can do with AI Studio. Again, we could probably have a whole dedicated webinar and just stuff for this. But in the interest of time, let's flip over and let's do an overview next on Microsoft Word. So let's open up Microsoft Word and see what Copilot can do to help us out here. In this case, you'll see that we've already got some suggestions and resources on other documents that it maybe wants to reference to create things. But let's just say we want to create a letter to our clients for our insurance agency that explains that their policy was canceled due to non-payment, and just hit go. Now, again, I could have done this under the creator, under the 365 Copilot program itself. No different than you could go out and do things like with ChatGPT, for example, but then you've got to do things like download your file and then open the file or take the text and copy and paste it into Word. But for Word here, it just does it all for us. We can choose keep it if we want, or let's say make it more friendly sounding, please. See if it knows what I'm talking about with my typo there on friendly. So it's going to refine it, and now it's going to try to make it more friendly. Here's a friendly reminder, and so on and so on. We can keep it if we'd like. Okay, so nice, easy way to go about things. With anything in 365, again, our apps, there's always going to be a Copilot button available now. So if I hit my Copilot button, now basically I have a chat bot inside my document. If I want to know how I can do other things, though, and we change this document to have a blue and gray theme. What you will find is that oftentimes by asking it questions like these, sometimes it will do that for you. Sometimes it's going to answer like this. While I can't make direct changes, here's how you do it. And it at least tells you how to interact with the program to make those changes. I'll show you on the next example here how you can have it insert things, for example, if that was relevant to this. So nice, easy way to make a Word document and get suggestions on how to do more design work. So if we were to shift gears now and look at Excel, let's open up Excel and show you what Copilot 365 can do with Excel. Again, I'm going to take a blank workbook, and then I'll open up Copilot here and say, oh, let's wait for it to load. Again, the joys of a live demo, right? Okay, well, it's taken its time. Here's what I'm going to do is I already had some demo data available and ready to go just in case. So what I did is I told Excel to basically come up with a list of information for me that I wanted to present and do some searching on. So I actually told Excel, please generate me a list of 130 insurance policy records like you would get from exporting from a management system. That includes policy type, made up premium amounts, expiration dates that vary within the next 120 days, and then how long this customer has been an active customer in our system. So I want you to picture this as what things would look like if you do an export from your management system. So we've got a list of maybe 130 or so different pieces of data, and we can scroll in through and out about, and you can see decent looking data we get from our system. But what can we do with that with Copilot? So what I might want to do is things, for example, like how do I chart this into a chart? Looks like my mouse is hiding on me here. So let's say Copilot, and we're going to say, can you please make me, I'm not an Excel guru, right? So I don't know what a pivot table is. So I'm going to make me a pie chart that has all of this data broken down by percentage of policy type. Funny, I'm so in the normal mood of or mode of being polite, I find myself asking it please and thank you and can you. Saw an article a while ago from actually the OpenAI folks, and they said that by their calculations that they've probably used about $100 million of computing time on answering please and thank you questions or responding to please and thank yous. So I guess just out of habit, right? So again, I asked it, hey, can you please make me a pie chart, which is a pivot table, on how you can do this? So it was nice enough to do it. So thank you very much for that. Now, if I'd like, I can just take it and I can copy that, or I can just say add to new sheet. Now you'll notice automatically it created a new sheet for me. So I got sheet 1 with all my data and sheet 2. So picture again, exporting data from your management system into Excel, opening up Copilot and say, hey, please review the list of policies that have multiple lines of business, or show me a list of multi-lines that don't include maybe an umbrella policy. And you've now got a quick list for maybe an upsell marketing campaign, trying to do some account rounding on getting people with an umbrella policy. So would have taken me a long time to figure out how to make a pie graph. Copilot did it for me in no time. How about PowerPoint? You all heard and saw that we already made a PowerPoint presentation, but I'll show you some things you can do with PowerPoint real quick. I can say again, oh, I notice I've got a slideshow going, so that might be a little bit tricky, but say, hey, Copilot, please create me a 10-slide presentation that we will use for IT training and security awareness for new hires at our company for them to go through during orientation. And it's going to make us that presentation. Say, sure, here you go, create new. And it's going to start going through that process. On the fly, it's going to ask us things like, do we want to change our design? We can bring in themes, so we can hit templates. If we had a template already made, we can just drag that in, for example. So it's just that easy to make a presentation. Let's move on to designing. I'm going to switch back to another presentation I've already got pre-made, and we can show you some design tools that it's got. Let me flip back. Thank you. Okay. No, I don't think it likes it because I'm in slideshow mode, but I'll go back and I'll show you in the blank slide. Yeah, sorry, folks. It just doesn't want to cooperate because I'm in presenting mode already. But you've also got this design suggestions. What this is this is going to be kind of like your image generator that's built into the system now. So it lets you do things like automatically choose different themes, templates, designs. If I add new slides, for example, let's make it an agenda photo. You'll see here automatically based on my content, you get new design themes. So very quick and easy and powerful tool, also just powered by AI, that'll help you do your slide design. Okay, a couple final tidbits. Let me show you what you can do with Microsoft Outlook. I'm going to pull up an email, for example, and I'll show you one of the first things that you can do. So we'll go you can see I've got a lot of stuff juggling here for the demo. Okay, so here's an email that I've got, and I'm trying to think to myself, what is this email about? It's really complicated. I don't understand the verbiage in here. You'll see now with Copilot 365, you get this summarize button over here on the right-hand side. So if I click summarize, it will basically try to do like a smart AI analysis of what is this email really trying to say. Its summary points will give you, again, kind of references, just like our previous searches did for documents. So it'll break down what complicated things might be behind an email. So it'll help you understand things better. So nice and easy way to make emails more understandable. Where I use it most often in emails is just in composing an email. So let's start a new email real quick. And let's say, Copilot, help me draft this email and help me draft an apology email to our customers about the recent golf outing that was rained out. And we can say generate. So kind of like your ChatGPT writing coach, but again, integrated right into Outlook. You don't have to go out to different programs and copy and paste and move things around. Keeping in mind that it's a work integrated tool again, when I say things like our company, it knows we're Smart IT Services. So it's got a lot of that knowledge that it's putting in ahead of time. We can do things like, again, adjust, make it longer, shorter, more casual, more direct. If we're emailing the boss, we might want to make it more formal and more direct, for example. So I like it. Let's keep it. We've got some room for customizations here, obviously, but great little tool to make composing emails nice and quick and easy. And then finally, Microsoft Teams. Going to give you a couple quick little highlights. Again, because we're running a Teams meeting, we're a little limited on just how we can show what's in the Microsoft Teams, but I'll flip over and I'll show you a couple examples. So if we start composing a Microsoft Teams meeting, what I want to take note of here is our Teams options. So we go to if we look at our meeting options, and again, this is going to open an internet link. And the meeting options is hiding on me here, I think. Pull that up. So here's our meeting options. Again, keep in mind, this is connected to our organization's privacy policies and admin level settings. But some of the meeting settings that it does give me is who can bypass the lobby, kind of a normal thing for meetings. But if we scroll down to our Copilot and AI stuff, if we have transcriptions turned on, now we have Copilot things. Do we want to allow Copilot after, during the meeting, or off? So what you're basically doing now is we're enabling Copilot to interact and read our annotation or our transcriptions. Let me show you what that looks like, because again, we're running a meeting right now, so I can't break out and show you a separate one. But here's how it would look if we look at a Copilot meeting. Over on the right-hand side during our Teams meeting, if you're a part of the organization, on the right, it shows who said this, who said that. Here's a recap so far. We can click on recap. And it's also going to give suggestions on other things we can ask back. So pretty neat way to keep a meeting flowing, especially when you've got tons of people. It's giving you just smart suggestions and feedback during the live transcription. It's got multi-language support also. So if you're in a meeting where there's multiple languages being spoken, it will do real-time translation for you as well. So great little tip and little tool. So definitely wish we could show you more today. I want to be mindful of your time. We could have a whole nother webinar on just each one of these topics alone on their own. But let's wrap it up here for today. So we really focus on Copilot 365. That is, again, a subscription-based tool, $30 a month per person. But keep in mind that you can change who the licensing goes to. So if I were to want Michael, for example, to be our Copilot person and to get to learn it, I can remove mine, and then Michael's now got access to those tools. That'll take effect for me next time I sign into my Microsoft tools, that it just won't have the Copilot button anymore. At its heart, it's a chatbot, an AI assistant, but where it gets its power is its 365 integration with the apps. So if you say, but I already use ChatGPT, it can do everything Microsoft can. Well, yes, it can, but the integration is really going to be where Microsoft shines. And it's going to just make things maybe a lot quicker and smoother for you. Both of them have their strengths. For the Copilot Studio that I showed briefly on how you can really get into some deep chatbots and make some really special stuff, that URL is listed here. It's copilotstudio.microsoft.com. You can do all your design in Copilot with the agents, but you saw that you've got a lot more options if you're going to get fancy with it with Copilot Studio. And then finally, in addition to the prompt coach, Microsoft has what they call their prompt library. It's another useful website resource for Microsoft that they have just examples on how to do different things with every program that we went over, but lots more. You can integrate it with Publisher, with Forms, OneNote, Flow, OneDrive, So with that said, I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much again, everybody, for joining. And we look forward to having you at our next webinar where we continue our series on using AI for your insurance agency.